Yeah, so Biden's America is falling apart, and I think pretty much everyone can see it at this point, especially those people presumably living in it. It's actually quite amazing how quickly Biden's America is falling apart as well. Let's just start with jobs, right? So the job growth has been really, really disappointing. So estimates had been for around 1 million new jobs with an unemployment rate of below 6%. And what actually happened was only 266,000 jobs. So like a quarter of the jobs they were expecting were created, and unemployment's up to 6.1%. And so this has been quite shocking. But the thing is, the numbers are staggering, right? So the leisure and hospitality industry added the most jobs at 331,000. But the thing is, before the COVID pandemic and before the lockdowns happened, this still leaves them nearly 3 million jobs down. So this is a massive, massive hit to this industry, and they can't recover. I mean, Jason Furman, an economist at Harvard University and a former Obama administration advisor, says, I think this is about a shortage in labour supply, as it's about a shortage of labour demand. If you look at April, it appears there were 1.1 unemployed workers for every job opening, so there are a lot of jobs out there. There's just not a lot of labour supply. And Carlos Gatsiuta, probably pronouncing that terribly. The president and CEO of Sergio's Restaurants in Southern California says, we've increased wages with about 3 different staffing agencies that are constantly looking for people. Other restaurateurs are walking around neighborhoods passing out flyers. But nobody's having the jobs. And the question is, why aren't people working?
Are they still handing out the checks?
They are still handing out the checks. That's exactly. The US government is basically paying people not to work. We go to the next one, John. As International Business Times reports, businesses across the US are struggling to fill jobs as fewer Americans apply after receiving a third round of stimulus checks. For one example that they cite is Robert Walker, the owner of family entertainment Apex Entertainment in Marlborough, Massachusetts, who said that some potential workers have called in to rescind their applications after getting the $1,400 stimulus checks from Biden's administration, from the American Rescue Plan. What? Rescue from what? Rescue them from prosperity.
Rescue them from the government. The government's the one doing the shutdowns.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But a lot of that's on local, state level. So anyway... the IRS, of course, has got another wave of stimulus checks, so people know there's more money coming, and so they're just like, why would I bother? Because you know this can't last, surely. So yeah, this is all part of Biden's nearly $2 trillion coronavirus relief plan. And the thing is, these payments, $1,400 dollars a month, it also is on top of whatever the state unemployment benefits are, and so literally they're getting hundreds, like $800 a week in Massachusetts. And it's like, God, why would you work if you had that amount of money coming into your bank account?
Well, if you're working in Massachusetts, you're being screwed.
Yeah, exactly. You're making more than $3,000 a month by doing nothing. I mean, this is ridiculous, right? And everyone, I think, knows in their gut that this is wrong, right? This is totally wrong. Looking at your bank account, mysteriously filling up with money, you know you didn't earn that money. You know this money has just come out of nowhere, and there is going to be a price to pay. Something given has no value. There is always a price to pay. You know this is not going to last, and it really seems to be that Biden is essentially trying to bribe people with their own money, or at least mortgaging the future of their own money. And so obviously inflation is coming. In fact, I say inflation is coming. Inflation is already here, actually. Sorry, I've got an Asia Times link there, John, but I must have put it in there afterwards. But this is just a report from Asia Times. So the real US consumer price inflation is running about twice what the Federal Reserve expected. They expected a 2% inflation, and now it's at 4%. And everyone's like, oh God, how has this happened? This has happened because you printed trillions of dollars and then just sent it out to people. Makes the money less valuable. And I don't know why we have to explain the concept of value. I mean, I'm no economist, but after spending some time with Academic Agent and promoting his courses, use code Lotus, it's very clear that supply and demand are the two contributing factors that create value. If you have excess supply, then value goes down. Anyway, this is the point. The inflation is skyrocketing, and the Biden administration. I can't remember the names of the individual cabinet members who said this, but there's just been this general theme of, well, we don't expect inflation. We don't see why there would be inflation. And it's like, yeah, but how could you be so disconnected to basic economic theory as to not know that this is going to be the case? Like, they're just like, oh, we'll just produce money and we won't expect the inflation. And it seems that they've got this kind of attitude where it's just like, well, if we just deny it, then what? Then it won't happen? It's going to happen. This is reality. You guys are lunatics.
I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, there's
Yeah.
one way inflation is made, and it's printing money. And when printer goes burr for what is it, like 2 years now?
This is what the libertarians have been saying for the last 2 years. And that's what the meme is about. That just money printer goes burr. And it's like, everyone knows what happens there, right? It's not some unexplored region of economics to know how hyperinflation occurs. There are so many examples from the 20th century and the 21st century of hyperinflation being a massive problem. We've got real concrete examples. And so it's like, right, okay, so now what's happening? Well, inflation's going through the roof. Who could have predicted this? Apart from everyone.
I just see the chat as like, guys, that isn't real inflation. Real inflation's never been tried.
Exactly. Right, and so this is bad, and this is also going to cause a bubble in home prices, apparently, house prices. But the thing is, there's a delay on this bubble, and so this is going to happen in like 2022, where the price of houses is going to go up and then pop. So another 2008,
Okay, I'm
basically.
going to delay buying a house then.
Yeah, well, in America anyway. I mean,
Yeah, but it'll affect here, sure.
yeah, it's gonna be the same here because we printed loads of money too, but thankfully we printed less money. But anyway, so this is Joe Biden actively screwing the U.S. economy, and I think it's important to note that inflation like this is in fact a tax on the poor. It is the average everyday person who really bears the biggest burden when the price of milk and bread, and well, not bread obviously, people shouldn't be eating bread, but when the price of normal consumer goods goes up in food and the necessaries of life goes up, it's the poor people that suffer, and that makes them even more dependent on the government handouts. So it's almost like Joe Biden's administration is deliberately crafting a situation where millions of people are totally dependent on the government for survival, for their day-to-day survival. Joe Biden is making this the case. This is not wise. This is not prudent. Anyone who was like, right, I want a really healthy country with a healthy economy or productivity would do the opposite of what Joe Biden is doing right now. And in fact, this all speaks to a giant ideological push, because you've got a few months ago, back in January, where Biden killed the Keystone XL pipeline. This was pretty much one of the first things he did. Goes in there, cancels this. Now that's America's fuel supply that he's talking about here. Kills 11,000 jobs immediately, and then another like 40 to 80,000 jobs that were relying on those 11,000 jobs, like the service of them. And it's a step towards reversing America's energy independence, which famously Donald Trump touted as America being energy independent, which is a desirable thing for any country.
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the greatest achievements of his presidency and the greatest achievement a president could get to.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, like, I don't know why you have to really invoke conquest third law here, which is the behavior of any bureaucratic organization can be explained if you assume it's been taken over by a cabal of its enemies, right? The United States as a country, it's a bureaucratic organization, and it appears to have been taken over by a cabal of people who are trying to destroy it. Like, these people are actively, deliberately doing damage. Anyway, so we get to the point where Joe Biden's administration has been persecuting the oil industry, and now you have a fuel shortage. This fuel shortage was, of course, caused by the hacking of the Colonial Pipeline, and this was something that happens, I guess, by apparently a group of Eastern European hackers who you have nice things to say about, but I don't.
I did say I had nice things. I just thought it was cute that they had a code of ethics, which they were like, yeah, we only hack things for money, not anything that would, harm healthcare or something. I'm
the
like,
hacking itself is the moral wrong.
I know, but it's like the pirates.
They can have all the codes of ethics. They hang
I'm
the
not
pirates.
I'm not saying it's good, obviously, but I find it weird that they bother. It's like, you're already doing evil things. Why pretend?
I'm sorry. I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean, and I was like, good, hang them all.
Thanks. But I did see the best comment I saw in our video about this was it's called the Colonial Pipeline. So, I mean, there's only one group responsible. It has to be the British, surely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were responsible for prosperity. That's right. And this is us coming back and explaining to you why you're all wrong. But anyway, so this of course caused massive problems. So Joe Biden was like, hey, please stop panic buying gas, and it's making the problem worse. He says, number one, don't panic. I know seeing lines at the pumps or gas stations with no gas can be extremely stressful, but this is a temporary situation. Do not get more gas than you need in the next few days. Gasoline supply is coming back online. Panic buying will only slow the process. Now, if there's one phrase that summarizes a successful presidency, gasoline supply is coming back online is not it. That's not it. That is a metric of how you failed. I was going to say something worse there, but you really failed. This didn't happen under Trump, did it? You've gone literally in the space of like 6 months from complete energy independence to gasoline supply is coming back online. Joe Biden. This is Biden's administration that has done this, right? And then, of course, he turns to the gas companies, the petrol stations themselves, and is like, oi, don't price gouge, don't take advantage of the customers, following the attack. That's what the hackers are trying to do. I also want the gas stations to, make sure they're not using the situation for financial gain. That's not what we're about. It's like, okay, well, why don't you just pay them a ransom or something, which is what they did with the hackers to the Colonial Pipeline, who, if we can get to the next one, they paid nearly $5 million to these hackers. So crime pays. Here you go. Here's your reward. Why don't you drone strike the hackers?
Well, they're in Russia, so.
So what?
That would be declaring war on Russia.
No. Well, then let's treat this like Russia declaring war on the United States. But this is unreal, right? So a government should never be paying ransoms, right? They should not be paying ransoms because and don't squeeze your face, because I'm telling you, there are so many historical precedents of when this happens, and this never ends well. It never ends well, because paying ransoms is a show of weakness. And this shows absolutely everyone else and their mother going, ooh, the United States is strong, and then they're starting paying off ransoms. Well, why wouldn't they pay ransoms to us? This happened with the Romans and the Germans. This happened with the English and the Vikings. This happens with the Byzantines and all of the other, like the steppe nomads and all of these. Paying ransoms is a sign of weakness, and it means you're going to fail. There's no question about it.
I agree that it's not ideal, but I think what you do in response to that situation is also interesting. So take example, what is it, like Caesar, his ransom was paid, and then he went down and hunted down the pirates who kidnapped him and killed them all.
Sure.
I mean, that's how you rectify that, although the ransom paying is not great.
Sure.
It depends
so now
what he does
Biden
in
is
response.
obligated to hunt down these hackers and hang them.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, crucify them. Specifically crucify them.
If he's following Caesar.
If he's following Caesar and he wants a positive outcome from this. Otherwise, there's going to be more hacking and there's going to be more ransom paid, and it will never end. This is disgraceful. They should not have paid this. They should have engaged diplomatic relations with whichever country these hackers are in and got them to literally go down and break down the door and drag them out by the fucking hair and put them up to trial. You've just ruined the economy and the lives of like a bunch of people all across the eastern seaboard in the United States. This is unacceptable. This is totally unacceptable.
It's not like the Kremlin couldn't, if they want to, go down, find these guys.
Oh, what, they're going to be like, oh no, they're civil rights. Yeah, right.
Like, you're risking, international war.
Yeah,
no.
Exactly. I mean, this is unbelievable, the disruption this has caused. Honestly, it's an insane maneuver by these hackers, which just suddenly puts them front and center on the radar of a person who essentially is becoming a fascist dictator. And I'm not even joking when I say that, and I don't think that's overstating the case. Let's go for the next one, right? So this is insane, which Joe Biden essentially is controlling the media and the media reporting on him. Now, if there's fascist dictatorship 101 is this. It is making sure the media does and reports exactly what you say. So as reported by the New York Post, they say, the White House is demanding that reporters who conduct interviews with the administration officials do so under conditions known as background with, quote, approval. The White House reporters are apparently seething over this policy, which requires them to submit quotes from interviews with the Biden administration officials to the communications team for approval, editing, or veto. So Biden's administration is demanding and apparently getting full editorial powers over the US media that deals with them. That is insane. That's not a free press. That's not what a free country does. This is what a dictator does. The information in the interview can be used in the story, but the reporter is unable to attach a name to the quote and must transcribe the comments and send them to the communications team. At that point, the White House can approve them, edit them, or veto their use. Unacceptable. Trump never did anything like this. Trump's a dictator and he's going to intimidate the media. No, this is what it looks like.
I remember that they used to claim all the time Trump's cracking down on the First Amendment. He's not wanting to talk to media.
He did nothing.
The best thing they had was I think it was Jim Acosta when he was holding the mic and refusing to let go. He was like, right, I'm just going to kick you out then because you're just being disruptive to the whole press conference.
Sure.
And they were like, no, you're cracking down on free speech. And it's like, look, if you're a journalist, Like, if your journalism entirely depends on access, you're not a journalist.
Yeah.
You should be able to run the stories being outside of the tent.
Absolutely. I mean,
But-
everyone else does. You know, everyone outside of this particular
Like,
little
you have no
bubble.
right to be in this press conference here.
No. But this...
But to turn around and then be like, not only that, we're also going to demand that you give us quotes beforehand.
No, not even that. We demand that you give us your editorial powers, and we will make the decisions on what you can publish. Unreal, right? Trump never did anything like this, and I mean, I would have obviously said the same thing that I'm saying now if he had done something like this. But that's the point. Trump never did anything. Trump would go out and tweet mean things, which is fine. That's, completely the ideal of freedom, actually, being able to say whatever the hell you like, and have millions of people hear it. But anyway, this exercise is a carryover from their presidential campaign, because this is exactly what they did in the presidential campaign: is curate all of the media to curate a specific kind of image. And we'll get back into the image curation a little bit, because I want to talk about just the way that Biden approaches politics, right? It's the way that he does things. So the next thing was that vaccinated Americans now apparently don't need a mask, according to the CDC, which is great. Not even sure if they needed a mask originally, to be honest, but let's just assume they did. So Biden calls it a great day. Oh, a great day. Thank you, dear leader. It's a great day. Today is a great day for America and our long battle with the coronavirus. Doesn't this just sound like Mussolini talking about like the invasion of Ethiopia or something? Today's a great day. The Italian nation has conquered. This is what he's saying. Like he's like the dear leader has delivered us a victory. Oh, thank goodness. So he says, if you've been fully vaccinated, you no longer need to wear a mask. Let me repeat. If you're fully vaccinated, you no longer need to wear a mask. Okay. Thanks for that information.
Is this even news?
No.
Like, surely the whole point of the vaccine was it's meant to work.
Obviously. And apparently, according to the studies, they do. So great, right? But the way he's framing it here, the way, is fine. Anyone who's fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing. If you're fully vaccinated, you can start doing the things you'd stop doing because of the pandemic. Okay, that's not badly framed, right? It's a bit weird, but okay, given the current context of how the coronavirus has kind of warped everyone's minds about where power and authority lie, fine. But then you get this tweet, and this tweet is still up, and my God, I can't get over it, right? The rule is now simple. Get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do. The choice is yours. This is not the language of a democratic leader. This is the language of a dictator. This is a Mussolini telling you what it is.
Is that a threat?
Exactly.
Get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do. The choice is yours. And what if I don't?
Well, that's the point, isn't it?
Then what?
Do you want to find out? I think he'll ante up.
Implicit in the statement. I mean, or else. Or else what? I will use violence.
Exactly.
That has to be what he's saying.
The choice is yours. And when you choose violence, he won't have to feel guilty about it. You chose. This is not the language of a democratic leader. And we know that Biden's actually incredibly high-strung and weird, because there's been a New York Times article that was published probably a few days ago that is very interesting and very critical about Biden. And this has obviously come from a reporter who's been able to get on the inside and has actually said something that is not just genuflecting praise of the dear leader, which is surprising. So anyway, I'm going to read a bit from this because this is important. I realize I'm going on quite a lot with this segment, but I've been here for ages. Shut up. Quick decision-making is not Biden's style. His reputation as a plain-speaking politician hides a more complex truth. Before making up his mind, the president demands hours of detail-laden debate from scores of policy experts. Those trips are often difficult for his advisors, who are peppered with sometimes obscure questions. Avoiding Mr. Biden's ire during one of his decision-making seminars means not only going beyond vague talking points that he will reject, but also steering the responses laced with acronyms or too much policy minutiae, which will prompt an outburst of frustration, often laced with profanity. Let's talk plain English here. He will often snap. Interviews with more than 24 current and former Biden associates provide an early look into how Biden operates as a president, how he deliberates, whom he consults, and what emerges is a portrait of a president with a short fuse who is obsessed with getting the details right, sometimes to a fault, when he angered allies and adversaries alike by repeatedly delaying a decision on whether to allow more refugees in the United States. Those closest to Biden say he is unwilling or unable to skip his routine. As a longtime advisor put it, he needs time to process the material so he feels comfortable selling it to the public. For as much as Biden projects an aura of unease, with his frequent backslapping references to Irish poetry and liberal use of the phrase, "come on, man," his aides say it takes a lot of behind-the-scenes work to prepare him to project such an assured demeanour. Biden is gripped by hey, don't laugh, right? Biden is gripped by a sense of urgency that leaves him prone to flares of impatience, according to numerous people who regularly interact with him. This sounds to me like the theatrical presentation of a fascist.
I can't get over. No, don't worry. It takes loads of prep work, and we have to prep him up. So
And
he's
this
so
is
good.
how good he is.
And then they're even saying, yeah, and as a response, he's still terrible on stage, like complete kerfuffle of a man.
He is, but it's the same principles that apply. Because one of the things that you could tell with Trump is there was absolutely no preparation with the optics of the thing, right? Unlike, and this is what we did in the book club on the Dictator's Handbook, Frank Ducotta's Dictators, where the whole point is it's a big theatre play to make people buy into a certain narrative and a certain kind of view of the dear leader, that he's confident, calm, always at his ease, always in command. And as you can see with Biden, that is what he's trying to project. We're the competent, we're the scientists in control, we've got all the experts on our side. Come on, man, this is going to be easy. But behind the scenes, it's insane and pathological attention to what appear to be like irrelevant details in some cases, unusual, weird questions, and a lot of time spent like building himself up for the performance. Honestly, sounds a lot like Mussolini's attitude to me. I keep hearing it out of these kind of reports. And the sense of urgency kind of indicates a sense of illegitimacy. Why would you need to feel so urgent and so controlling about all of these pieces of minutiae if you didn't feel that there was something wrong? And judging by the fact that Joe Biden has screwed up everything, and this is not even to bring into other problems like the migrant crisis that he caused at the border and things like this. Like this is just like the most immediate things that are going on right now, all of which are a consequence of Biden's policies, all of which are attempting to remake the United States in a more sort of European way. And it seems to come from Biden's essentially fascist mindset. And the thing is, it's all going wrong because Biden himself is a mediocre man. A deeply mediocre man. You can look at his record of lying, basically, about his accomplishments, his education, the way he's built himself up over the years. It's all based on lies. The fact that his family is an absolute, what's happened with Hunter Biden, his connections to China, all of this is built on lies. So Biden is standing at the top of a pyramid of lies, and he is not the brilliant man required to maintain this. And it's all starting to catch up with him. The pressure is building. You can see this is all about to explode. And I say you can see it's all about to explode because apparently 124 retired officers and generals have said things about Biden that we actually can't say here. But they've written a letter to him in the style of the generals in France sending one to Macron saying, things aren't good, you're to blame, we are connected to the military, be careful. That's the underlying message. They didn't say that explicitly, but that's the underlying message. And I'm telling you, it's all going badly. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.